It's Monday and we are on week 2 of Unit 9, continuing with our community helpers. As always, we are going to use simple, basic activities that will help lay down the foundation for your child's math, science, and English skills. These are skills that are going to follow them throughout the rest of their schooling and the rest of their lives, quite frankly. This week we're going to continue to help our children recognize jobs within our communities and how those jobs help our communities. The resources that we're going to use along with the books I will list in the description box below. If you've just happened to stumble upon this video, I will be sure to link our playlist so you can catch us right from the start at Unit 1, Week 1. This week you're to start off, as always, with your morning routine along with the song and poem for this unit, and then we are going to reintroduce the topic of community helpers. Our read aloud for this week is called Let's Meet a Firefighter, and for our things to talk about is to simply do a picture walk through this book first and try to make predictions with your child and guess what's going to happen before you do an actual read aloud. Our learning activity is sorting red objects, and our easy activity is the letter squirt, so let's do this. This morning we started out with actually a visit to a community worker. We had a dentist appointment this morning. Really, I couldn't plan this stuff better if I tried, and that's one thing I love about this program is so much of your regular day-to-day activities and lives just play right into this program. It's fantastic. So after we had our trip to the dentist, we came back and we got into our book, Let's Meet a Firefighter, and we watched it a couple of times through, and there's a lot of information in this book, so we really worked together with the recap and recall part of this story. Then right after this story, Nola had a great idea and she wanted to be a firefighter, which is exactly what our easy activity is for the day. So for this activity, you are to take a dry erase marker and write out your letters that we have done so far, which are, you know what, I'm just gonna put them on screen because I can't remember them all now. And then you are to have your child pretend that they are a firefighter and give them a little squirt bottle, which will be their fire hose or their extinguisher. And then you are going to call out a letter that is on fire and they are going to squirt it with the water and put the fire out and erase the letter that you are referring to. So we just simply went to our whiteboard. We wrote out at least one large and one small version of all of the letters that we have covered so far. And for the first half of the game, I would call out the letter and she would put out the fire. And then for the second half, she would call out the letter that she was extinguishing the fire from. She also wore her goggles and her hat, as it talks a lot in the book about the firemen's special tools and special gear that they wear, which she wanted to have some of that. After that, we did another round of this with numbers instead of letter, and then she went around the house extinguishing out little fires all over the place. For our learning activity today, you are to collect a bunch of random red items on some sort of tray or in a bowl, and then have your child sort them in a matter of different ways. Now we are keeping with the color red in honor of the firefighters that we are reading about today, and this activity, there are going to be many ways that your child can sort the items that you collect, and it is all going to depend on what type of items you collect. You may collect different types of vehicles or different types of utensils, different types of building blocks or building tools. We still haven't made it to this activity today. I believe our outing this morning has left somebody a little extra tired this afternoon, so I'm going to see if I can sneak it in a little later on or maybe even with tomorrow, and that is it for the day. Tuesday. Today you are going to start out with your morning routine as usual, along with the song and poem included in this unit, and then we are going to review the topic of firefighters. So perhaps you may ask questions like, what kind of gear does a firefighter have, or what sort of tools does a firefighter use? Then we're going to get into today's read aloud, which is just a repeat of yesterday's of Let's Meet a Firefighter. For our review topic, we are going to revisit the letter H, go back through today's read aloud, and look for a few capital and small versions of the letter. Our learning activity for the day is to be a counting teacher, and our easy activity is our alphabet book page of the letter H. So let's do this. First thing this morning, we got on our review topic of a firefighter and the kind of gear that a firefighter has. This is something that we talked a lot about yesterday. So today we reviewed more of the tools that were included with the firefighter truck and along with some of the gear that they also wear. Then we got into the read aloud during breakfast. We rewatched this book on YouTube a few times through, and again, the more we watch it, the more Nola is able to recap and recall all on her own. A little later on, we got into our learning activity, which is the counting teacher. So for this activity, your kiddo is going to pretend to be a teacher and teach you how to count to 10. So for this activity, you can use any method that you like that we often use within this program. You can use the 10 counting frame, you can use the post-it notes or playing cards, and you get to be the student and your child gets to be the teacher and teach you how to count to 10. Or whatever number you feel is appropriate for you and your family. So for this activity, seeing that Easter is right around the corner, I had the 10 counting frame ready to go along with 10 Easter eggs. And I just simply told Nola she was going to be a teacher and teach me how to count to 10. So she had to teach me how to fill this frame and how to touch and count each egg until I got to the number 10. Then we flipped our placemat over. And on the other side, I had post-its written out with a bunch of numbers that were just sort of scattered. For this part of the activity, I wanted her to put the post-its in the correct order. And in doing that, she would be teaching me again how to count. It worked out great. She really, really loved it. And she really liked to make sure that I was pointing and touching and counting aloud with each number that I was saying. So we went through this a few times, and of course, being the student, I was stumbling and forgetting some numbers, so we were going back and having to repeat ourselves a few times until I got it right. Our easy activity is simply the alphabet page. This is for the alphabet book that we are creating on each letter that we go through in the program. So if you are unable to print out a large letter H, then just simply get a marker, a pen, or a crayon and draw out a boxed letter H. It is suggested in the program that you cut out heart shapes and help your child glue them onto this letter H after they're done coloring and decorating it all on their own, just to stick with the theme of the letter H. And that's all for today. Wednesday. Today you are going to start, as always, with your morning routine along with the song and poem for this unit, and then we are going to get right into our read aloud, which is called Let's Meet a Doctor. As always, you're encouraged to do a picture walk through the book first, trying to guess what's going to happen with your child before you do the actual read aloud. And then for our things to talk about today is simply to talk about what happens when we go to see the doctor. Then we are going to get into our learning activity, which is our chef's scooping station, followed by our easy activity, which is a Band-Aid peel. So let's do this. This morning we started out with our book, Let's Meet a Doctor. We watched it a couple of times through. Then we kind of got into our easy activity first because we wanted to play doctor, of course. So for this activity, you are to play doctor with your child and also teach them how to apply Band-Aid if that is a skill that you have not touched base on yet. So we got out our doctor set, we got out some Band-Aids, and I showed Nola how to peel and apply a Band-Aid, and then she continued to apply about a dozen Band-Aids to my leg, and it was not fun taking them off. While we were playing doctor, we took time to talk more in detail about what happens when we go to the doctor, seeing as, you know, Colton is so young. Nola has accompanied us to the doctors a lot over the last year when he goes for his shots, and also about what kind of specialists we go to see. It was a great activity. We always love playing doctor. It's a game we play around here a lot, so it was a good one to do. Right now, we are currently still on our learning activity, which is our chef's scooping station. So for this activity, you simply want to get a large bin and a couple of pounds of dry rice and just set up a scooping station and let your child pretend to be a chef and use their imagination for what they are going to cook or bake or saute or flambe. Maybe just bake. Nola, what are you baking?
Puppy biscuits.
Puppy biscuits. She's a puppy chef. She's Violet and I'm Scout. So this is a great activity to just engage in scooping, pouring, measuring, capacity, stuff like that. Things that we have all touched base on a lot before. And you may want to lay a towel down if you are doing this inside to help a little bit with cleanup. But what I prefer to do is sweep up the rice and then pour it back in the bag because I keep the same couple of pounds of rice to do these kinds of activities with. And that's all for today.
Bye!
Thursday, after you do your morning routine, you want to review the topic of community helpers. So you play a little guessing game where you would give your child clues to see if they can guess which community helper you are. So you would say something like, I help people who are sick, or I wear a white jacket, I use a stethoscope, things like that. Try to get them to guess who you are. Our read aloud is simply going to be a repeat of yesterday's. And for our things to talk about, we want to revisit the letter H. So you want to have this letter presented for them and talk about the sounds that it makes and some familiar words that begin with that letter, and perhaps go back through the read aloud and find some of each, the small and large print on a few pages. Our learning activity is collecting the trash counting, and our easy activity is toothbrush paint. So let's do this. This morning we started out with our little recap game of Guess Who I Am, which we also kind of just included in with the poem that is included with this unit. It's pretty much the same thing, only you kind of sing it as a song, and Nola really enjoys playing this, so we did this about 5 or 6 times through. I had the easy activity set up right away just because it was the easiest to present on the table. So for this, you just want to draw the outline of a tooth on a piece of colored paper, give your child some white paint and an old toothbrush, and have them paint in the toothbrush. No, have them paint in the tooth with the toothbrush as their paintbrush. So while we were playing this game, we talked about the dentist appointment that we had on Monday, because like I always say, this program, your daily life just has a way of popping up perfectly in this program. So we got to review what happened at our dentist appointment and things that we talked about the dentist with, and just our general teeth hygiene and why it's important to brush our teeth. We also started to talk about the letter H while she was painting in her toothbrush, because I had written out the letter tooth across the top of the page. That brought up the topic of H, and we started talking about some familiar words that we know that begin with this letter, and of course the sound that it makes. And she was very curious as to why she couldn't hear the H in this word, but I didn't really get into that topic of the T and the H sound together. We're just not there yet. So for our learning activity, which is garbage collecting, counting, I suggested in the program that you leave garbage out on the floor. So some can be recycling, it can be actual paper, crumpled up paper, you can leave little baggies or whatever you see fit for your family to play out this activity. So what you would do is ask your child for 4 pieces of garbage or 5 pieces of recycling, something along those lines, where they would collect the appropriate amount of items and then place them in the appropriate bin, bowl, bag, whatever you have provided for this activity. We took a little bit of a different spin on this. I had just really collected our day's waste for the morning. For our compost, our recycling, our garbage. Nola does partake in helping putting these things in the proper places. Quite often it's a little bit tricky because all of our stuff is on the other side of our baby gate, because you know we have a 1-year-old, but we do get Nola's help whenever we can sneak it in there. So she is very familiar with this, and what I had done is just collected all of these items for the morning, and then I got her to help me sort them out as to where they would go first, and then we counted out a lot of the items, and then she took the items to the appropriate place. And I did this a few times throughout the day, with the afternoons recycling, and not so much of the garbage. I really didn't keep garbage, but as far as the compost and the recycling, and she helped me sort it, she helped me count it, and then she helped me put it in the appropriate place. And that was it for today. Friday. This morning, after you do your morning routine, you want to get into today's read aloud, which is a day in the life of a police officer. And I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but when you do these read alouds or just read stories with your child in general, make sure you point out and tell them the author and illustrator, just so that they become familiar with these words. For our things to talk about today, again, we're still reviewing the topic of community helpers. So today you would want to ask questions like, which community helper is your favorite? Or why are garbage truck drivers important in our community? How do dentists help people? Things like that. Just get the conversation going about community helpers. Our learning activity is an alphabet review, and our easy activity is a police car shape puzzle. So let's do this. This morning we started out with our book, and I found a little bit of a different version, just one that I thought was a little bit more appropriate for Nola and where we're at. It was quite a long book. It was almost 10 minutes long, and there was a lot of information in this book too. And it was by the same author, Gina Bellisario, or that was the author of some of the other books that we watched this week. So we only watched it once through, and because I knew it was a little bit longer than what we typically do, what we did is we kind of stopped after each chapter and just did a little bit of recall and recap as we went along, because I anticipated she was not going to want to watch this book again. Then we got right into our easy activity that I had ready on the table. For this activity, you want to just prep a couple of shapes and half of a paper plate that you need to paint blue ahead of time, and have your child glue together the pieces to make what resembles a police car. Nola knew exactly what we were doing before I even said a word, and things like this blow me away, and this is where the repetitiveness of this program really comes into play, is she can anticipate what we're going to do. And because we had just watched a book about police and she saw the materials in front of her, she pieced that together that we were making a police car. And she was right, of course. And we quickly assembled our police car for our easy activity. Then after that, we got into our alphabet review. So now for this one, you're gonna want to write all of the letters that we have done so far, which I will put on the screen. I am not gonna try to guess them all anymore because I always forget one. You want to write both the capital version and lowercase version of each letter and then tape them up or put them up on Post-its and then use a different descriptive word and have your child hop over to collect a capital A, or have them skip over to collect a lowercase b, such and such, and you know, just kind of on and on like that until you have collected all of the letters. So this was a very successful game, and with Easter just around the corner, it's actually this weekend. Nola just wanted to hop because she was wearing her bunny sunglasses, so this was very serious business for her. So we carried on in this manner, and then about halfway through, she told me what letter she was going to collect, and I'm totally okay with this. If she can correctly identify which letter she is going to retrieve for me, as in an upper or lower case, and which letter it is, then that is awesome. I'll let her pick instead of me telling her what letter to get. And of course, Colton loves to participate in these games. One of the other suggestions in the program for this activity is to perhaps turn off the lights and use a flashlight. If that's something that your child is really drawn to and makes this game exciting for them, then go ahead, do it. Make it fun. And that's all for the day, and that is all for the week. Another fantastic week with easy to prep, engaging activities that are really helping our child build these skills that they are going to need to take on with them throughout the rest of their life. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, or perhaps share this video with somebody else you think might find it handy. Thanks.